more what it is. A new Level Up Entertainment podcast. On this show, we choose a topic that's interesting to us and then assemble a panel of experts or people with unique perspectives to discuss the topic of the week. This week's topic is theme parks. We're going to talk about our favorite parks, rides, attractions, and more. We'll also discuss some strategies to get the most out of your park visits. I'm your host, Scott, and joining me this week,
I'm Sam.
Hi, I'm Harry.
Hi, I'm Tara.
All right, so I know we kind of all lost our plans for this year because of COVID. I know I was hoping to go back out to theme parks. I went to Disney World and Universal Studios for the first time last year, and I caught the bug, and I've been wanting to go back ever since. But I know that my plans have kind of been thrown off from that, so I know a lot of people have. Disney World finally closed for the first time ever, or stuff like that. So I've been wanting to talk about theme parks, and I've got three of my theme park experts with us. So I guess we'll start the conversation off with what's your favorite parks? I've only ever been to three in my whole life. Six Flags Great Adventure, Universal Studios, and Disney World, and 2/3 of them were just in last October alone, and that was it. So Sam, what's your favorite park to go to?
It's really hard to say, and this is going to sound corny because obviously we're here for Disney, and I get to go to Disney every day if I wanted to. But stupidly, every year I get really excited to go to Mariner's Landing and Wildwood. It's the dumbest thing.
But did you go there as a kid, or?
Every year, sometimes more. And as an adult, I go to New Jersey just to go for there. But my favorite Disney park is probably like Magic Kingdom or Epcot. Okay. Epcot, the adult in me loves it because I love the festivals that they have, the art festival, food and wine, a couple other ones. But it doesn't feel like Disney until you go to Magic Kingdom.
Say, Harry, I think I know the answer to yours, but we might as well make it official. What's your favorite park to go to?
Don't let the ears fool you.
So your shirt gives it away.
Yeah, my favorite theme park is Universal Studios, Florida, the Studios Park specifically. Although I love Islands of Adventure too. It's celebrating its 30th anniversary this year, so I want to throw that out there. Happy 30th. But it's a really cool park. It's had a lot of great history from franchises that I love, like Back to the Future, Ghostbusters, E.T., the Blues Brothers. There were a lot of great 80s movies that really hit my wheelhouse that they were represented in that park. And now over the years, those things have been replaced, but they've been replaced with things that are also really near and dear to me, especially the Harry Potter section, which I think it revolutionized the industry, the theme park industry, when they first opened the first Harry Potter area for immersive entertainment. And now we as theme park fans are enjoying the benefits because now Disney's opening their immersive entertainment with Star Wars, and we just see this great back and forth. So all that goes back to Universal Studios.
All right, Tara, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, to hop off exactly what Harry was just talking about, what Universal did with the Harry Potter world is why Hollywood Studios is now my favorite park. It was always Epcot. Just loved walking around in the atmosphere. But now that there's Galaxy's Edge and that immersion's just Disney is taking it to a whole nother level. And it's literally like walking into another world. I've never gotten dressed up to go to the theme park. Usually you're dressing for comfort. Now I'm dressing to be immersed in another world. So for me, there's nothing like it.
As I say, I've seen you go to pick your pictures from your vacation to being at Disney, being at Star Wars as Ahsoka.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's one of my go-tos. Yep.
I know I kind of dodged the question. I didn't pick a favorite. I've only been to Universal Studios and Disney World for their Halloween events. So I don't feel like I got the proper flavor of them in Magic Kingdom and Hollywood Studios specifically. So I can't really pick. They both have things I really liked. I will say the Simpsons part of Universal Studios, I freaked out and spent the whole day there. We talk about immersion. I know it's a stupid cartoon, but I thought it was awesome. I got to eat a Krusty Burger at Moe's and have a beer, and the bartender was super surly and mean. It was perfect.
It replaced Back to the Future, but
I see. I will say, I really wish I've had this conversation with you, Harry. I think I would have loved Universal Studios in 1997 when they still had Jurassic Park. I mean, Jurassic World now, Jaws, King Kong.
Yeah, I miss Jaws.
the Ghostbusters stage show, Beetlejuice, stuff like that. I think I would have been really into that stuff.
Yeah.
When I was at Universal Studios, I made a point to ride the ET ride because it's the last surviving opening day ride that they have. And like, it's not a great ride, but it was cute for what it is. I did feel really weird because it's definitely designed for children and I'm like 35.
Well, it's funny because like Universal has gotten rid of so much of the opening day attractions, except for ET. It's really, I think, the last one left at this point. And
it's the last one, yeah.
The evolution now that's more screen-based rides, a lot of simulators, and when you look at Disney parks, they hold on to a lot more of their history. A lot of their opening day attractions are still there, things that came over from Disneyland, and that craftsmanship is different. You can kind of tell the difference when you ride these rides that, you know, something that's physically there, like an animatronic. It just, I don't know. I don't know how the rest of you guys feel, but like, I feel like it's a different ride experience than just looking at a screen.
When I think about going to Universal Studios as a kid, I was like 6 years old and it was like Harry and the Hendersons and I totally freaked out on Jaws. Like I remember that so much, and not just because I was a little kid and it was prime age, but because the rides exactly that struck a chord with the craftsmanship. And now that I am in my 30s, you know, we don't go to Universal that often because given the opportunity of all the parks that are in Orlando, they just offer the least, if you will. I still really enjoy the park, but I had a season pass for an entire year and I didn't go one time, not once. But it's just not as accessible. They did so good with Harry Potter. Like any Disney park, any park I've ever been to, when they set up like Nocturne Alley and you kind of got lost finding yourself back there and how immersive that was, they should have just stuck to that because that really blew it out of the park, not to be, you know, punny, but when they brought back King Kong and then King Kong was all video, it was like, all right, thanks Universal. Glad I spent money on this.
Well, because what was great about the original King Kong ride, I'm saying this like I ever wrote it and I didn't, but like it was a giant like life-size animatronic of him, and that's like just the engineering feat alone is impressive, even if you don't like the ride.
Yeah, and you really, in that ride, especially 7-year-old Sam, really felt like the trolley car was going to fall.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, I can imagine.
Like, it was super realistic.
I would be terrified of it as a 35-year-old because the big secret for me, which is why I haven't been to many theme parks, and Sam, I went to Disney World with her, so she kind of knows a little bit about this, but rides really freak me out. There's a dip in Pirates of the Caribbean I didn't know was there, and I got really scared.
Oh, no.
But I will say that was a really cool ride to do because we went, it was Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween. So they had a lot of live actors in some of these rides. So they were interacting with us as we went down the ride, and it was really cool. That's when I found out, I was like, oh, that's really cool that they heckle you and stuff. And then Sam told me, he's like, oh yeah, they don't normally do that.
They're not normally here.
It's usually just animatronics and not people. But I guess we can roll that into like some of our favorite rides that we've had at parks. I will say we're talking about the Simpsons one. I rode the Simpsons ride a whole bunch of times.
That ride's really good.
I really enjoyed it. I would love to go back in time and do the Back to the Future one. I know the video is on the DVD. It's not the same.
Right.
Right. I will say, while we're still talking about how everything is screens and stuff at Universal, the Transformers ride was also really cool. And that has like some live action elements to it, even though it's like a 3D screen. Your car is like zipping around. Your car is a character in the movie you're watching. So like it'll attack characters and like its arms will transform out and like punch people and stuff. But like it has like actual like pyrotechnic fire effects. And then when you defeat Megatron at the end, like there's an actual defeated Megatron you drive by and like the lights go out in its eyes. It's really cool.
Yeah, that was like the next generation of motion simulator rides. Like Universal came out with Spider-Man, which was kind of like the next generation of Back to the Future, with like those practical sets that you're moving through as you're watching the screens. And then Transformers is like another iteration of that. And then I would argue that the Harry Potter and the Forbidden Journey ride is like the next step of that, where you're actually in like flying benches that move you around. So you're not only in a car, you're moving around through practical sets and screens. So it's been fun to watch sort of how these things have evolved over time and the next steps of the motion simulator ride.
No, I definitely agree, but then they came out with Escape from Gringotts, which I felt like kind of regressed. It was like less innovative than the Forbidden Journey, the one that's in Hogwarts. And I feel like, I mean, that ride's one of my favorite rides at Universal, either park, but if I go on what's been previous mentioned, Spider-Man and Transformers, it's the same experience to me. So I think that's one place that you just agree with what you guys have said that Universal really lacks, in my opinion.
Did either of you get to ride Rise of the Resistance yet?
I have, twice.
Oh yeah. So I think that's the next step, right? Like they started bringing back more practical effects and live actors.
Yeah.
And things, right?
And it's not just practical effects. It's a good mix of everything. The car's moving a lot more than in these other sets. It's also not on a track, which is why there's always issues with it breaking down and stuff. Because I'm not exactly sure how the mechanics of that works, but it's pretty amazing. But it also is just scale-wise on a whole nother level when you have like HACs that are full size. I mean, that's just unbelievable. Going back to what you said about King Kong, I mean, that they're bringing that back. And I think that's really awesome. And obviously much more expensive and much harder to do.
With Rise of the Resistance, when that was opening, the Imagineers were telling the park CEOs not to open because it's going to flop so bad. And so the ride as you see it now is like not even the attended ride, but it was so much more immersive and in depth that they couldn't pull it all off at the same time.
So the first opening weekend, it was the full thing, but they had to turn off basically some of the moving parts, because it just was breaking down too much. So I did get to see it and I don't want to spoil anything because it's a pretty new ride. There's certain animatronics that no longer have been used. They're using like a screen behind them, similar to what they've done with Pandora. River Journey, where if the animatronics is broken, they have a screen behind it, so that way they can kind of repair it underneath like the stage kind of thing. But yeah, I'm worried about going back and not having the same experience again, because I don't know how long it's going to take them to get it back in full working order.
That ride, I guess like the craftsmanship of the cart that they use for that ride is similar to it's called like Antarctic Adventure or something like that at SeaWorld. And so the bottom of the ride, think of like if you're like buffing a marble floor, the buffer spins. That's what that is. So it like kind of like moves you around like a bumper boat in the Atlantic one, but in the Disney one, it's more progressive. It moves fluidly through everything easier. And so I love what they've done with it. I think that the new Star Wars, and shoot me now, I'm sorry, they're not my favorite necessarily, but I think that the immersiveness that they've provided, especially with the cantina, the eateries, and the market, it really doesn't matter if the ride's good because that's so good.
Yeah. I will say, since they based the park more on like the sequel trilogy, I think if it was a location I was more familiar with, like I probably would have been more excited to go down to that. I haven't been to the Star Wars park yet. I've only been to Magic Kingdom's the only part of Disney World I've been to so far. I wanted to go to Universal Studios this year, but I don't think that's going to happen now.
Well, that was one of the biggest criticisms about Galaxy's Edge when it was first opening was, they didn't base it on Hoth or Tatooine or a place that you knew. Whereas, Universal, it's Diagon Alley. Oh my gosh, I'm standing in front of Hogwarts Castle. So
they've got Hogsmeade and everything, like all the key places.
Yeah, so like that connection isn't there for some fans that were looking for it, but it did allow Disney to tell their own story about this new land. So there were pros and cons about it, but that was one of the biggest criticisms where people were upset that there was no nostalgia, I guess, built in.
Yeah, it's a lot less accessible for more casual fans. I mean, it's obviously very recognizable Star Wars, but as someone who's read the books that surround the land, and like I know who Vi Moriarty is, who is the spy that you'll see walking around. But like if you didn't read the book, you're not going to really recognize her outside of the promos that they've had. So I think they need to do a little more work of making sure these characters are fully ingrained in the story of Star Wars if you want people to be able to relate to it. But for me, what's different as a big Harry Potter fan is I like it that it's my own story when I go to Galaxy's Edge versus when I visit Harry Potter, I'm kind of visiting someone else's story. So it just kind of depends what you like and what to you speaks to you.
And keep in mind too, this is just phase 1 of Galaxy Edge. They have 3 phases planned. And so they're continuing kind of debate of whether or not to bridge the gap. There's a huge field of land on the other side of World Drive where they basically funneled all the dirt that they dug out when they were building Galaxy's Edge. So they're debating, like, do they bridge it and then they build an entire land over there? Or are they going to take down downtown Manhattan, which the only attraction there right now is Muppets, RIP. And they're going to take that all out. And then they're going to bridge all of that all the way up to where the backlot restaurant used to be. Because before they entered with this whole ordeal of making Black Spire Outpost, that restaurant got rebranded to Star Wars.
Yeah, I remember having really bad Vader waffles just because it was Star Wars branded. Yep.
Well,
yeah.
You know,
but you never
Muppets,
see anyone there anymore at the back lot. So.
Poor Muppets is in like the worst spot too, because like Star Wars is on the other side, and then Galaxy's Edge.
So its days are numbered, and I really hope that maybe they give it facelift and they move it over to where Disney Junior is.
There's a good chance that there's a new Muppet show coming out at the end of next month on Disney Plus.
There is the Star Wars gallery over there where they have the dinner parties. They can rip that out, build that into Backlot Tour. Just put Muppets over there. Don't get rid of it. I'll cry.
And then they're doing the hotel too. As long as COVID, who knows what the plans with COVID now, but
we talk about all this, but who knows?
Yeah, they were supposed to have this immersive, like your vacation starts and you are in the story and it's all included. Everything.
It's a land cruise. I don't know if you know, like you can come and go as you please, but like when you buy your room or you buy your ticket, you're basically buying it as if you're on a cruise. So you're not supposed to leave. And you're there for 3 days, I think is the minimum tour, and it's $1,500 a night. It's crazy.
Yeah, this is why another reason I don't go to theme parks very often.
I mean, we don't know for sure how expensive it is, but I've already been saving.
Researching.
Although now who knows, I might have an extra year or two because of COVID. So we'll see.
The marketing demos that they put out for that are fantastic.
Amazing.
Like I can't even fathom, like this must have kept somebody up at night for weeks trying to put it all together.
Yeah, I mean the concept art looks amazing where you like get on a shuttle when you first get there to show you like going to the cruiser, and then there's no windows, you basically see space, so it's very immersive. But same with Galaxy's Edge, some of the concept art did not come to fruition. It wasn't quite as immersive as they originally had hoped. Obviously, I'm sure budget's time, there's a lot of factors, but now with COVID, we'll see if the original concepts actually come to fruition.
Yeah, I was just saying, I don't think any park has ever turned out the way it was originally planned. Especially Disney ones always seem to be way too ambitious. 'Cause remember, like, Animal Kingdom was also supposed to have like a mythical land, and that just didn't happen.
It did in the beginning.
Well,
they were going to.
Yeah, there was going to be like a whole thing, but they pushed that back for budgetary reasons and built it later. And then I think it just never fruition. Like it never came to fruition. But like, what are some of the other like classic rides? Before we started the podcast, Sam and I were talking. Apparently, they're getting rid of Splash Mountain.
They're rebranding it.
That was big news.
They're folding.
Today.
It hurts because I totally understand the why, but the ride itself shares no resemblance. If you didn't know about the history, it would never draw attention to itself. So they're rebranding it, and it hurts. And I think it hurts the most because Disney caves on one park and not the other. So like Mr. Toad is still at Disneyland, not at Disney World.
I know people were trying to save that so bad.
Oh man. And so there's a number of other things like in Pirates of the Caribbean where they changed, it's no longer we wants the redhead. Now it's the rum they wants. And it's like, I get it, but if your market is a 7-year-old kid, do you think the 7-year-old kid picks up on that? And maybe they do. Maybe I'm wrong.
So it's a different age now. I don't know what it's like being 7 with the internet.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's like of all the things that Disney could fix about themselves, is this really the one?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough because you have people who grew up with these rides now. These are now generational things. Like I said, Universal, it's the 30th anniversary. So now you've got people with their kids and maybe grandkids going, and they want to share the same stories and experiences that they had on these rides with their kids and grandkids. And, Disney world is since the 70s, mid 70s. So, you've got a lot of time there, and Disney, I think, has done a better job than Universal at preserving its early theme park history. But they're changing things slowly but surely, and that's going to be debated every single time.
Yeah.
They wanted to change the Maelstrom to the Frozen ride,
I signed that
petition.
Ago.
Yeah, and like that
awful.
Is a ride that I think if you take the casual theme park fan, they don't even know that it's really there because it's kind of in the back of Epcot.
And it's awful. The ride's not good.
Yeah, but that even caused a lot of controversy for people when they wanted to change it. So it's like a blessing and a curse to have all of this.
Yeah, I think it's a slippery slope. Most of all, if you boil it down to nothing else, is 30 years from now, who remembers Frozen? Like if you're gonna rebrand something, if you're gonna bring something up, make it something that lasts. Don't make it something that you're gonna rebrand 3 years from now. Because like now, okay, there's Frozen 2, but the ride still is Frozen 1, and it's still bad.
I don't know. I never watched the Frozen movies. They don't seem like my jam. Maybe that'll stand the test of time, and we're still talking about it how many years later.
Yeah, I mean, I love the movies, but it's pretty one note, the ride.
Yeah.
So even you can love the movies and still think they could have done more with the ride to make it less heavy around the movie, where you could have the characters but kind of have it be its own story. I think it would stand the test of time a lot more if they didn't just make it like part of Frozen 1, basically.
Yeah, and like you said, one note, it's exactly that. Like the ride is not smooth. People wait 2-3 hours for it. The ride is like legitimately less than a minute long. You will get unintentionally wet, like not fun wet. Like there's a store that backs up to the Frozen ride, and so much water had leaked out of the Frozen ride that it actually caused an avalanche of water in the store.
Oh wow.
So like they haven't done a really great job like bringing it up and preserving anything that's there. They've done a good job with slapping a brand on it and pushing it out the door.
Oh man, maybe you guys should just let this go.
Well, I mean, I bring it up because it's kind of like the situation that Universal finds itself in now. It's such an IP based park that it constantly needs to update things because they feel like that, people aren't going to know what Jaws is anymore, or Back to the Future, or King Kong. They know Harry Potter right now, or they know the Transformers, at least the Michael Bay movies. That's what, that's what they went with. So, Disney is going to lose rides that are like Pirates of the Caribbean or the Haunted Mansion, where there were these original stories that people really enjoyed. And they're going to find themselves on this treadmill of constantly trying to update the IP to keep customers happy and stay relevant.
Then where can it go from there? Like I'm sure there's a person out there that gets paid a lot of money to dream up all of this stuff and make it all happen. But I mean, like realistically, Disney's been so successful because they dug in deep and they stayed there for a really long time before really advancing. And now that they're advancing, like they tore up all of Epcot. Epcot's now Moana, a movie that's 2 years old. Like,
is it only 2 years old? I thought it was older than that.
Even worse to my point.
Yeah.
It's like, where do you go from here? And it's like, okay, if you want to make it more of like Gaia, Mother Earth, bringing everything back together, fine. But how does that fit in the experimental prototype community of tomorrow?
Yeah. Well, like having something like Guardians of the Galaxy even fits more so with Epcot than Moana. Like there's just no connection there with the original idea behind Epcot.
And so Guardians got pushed another year. And so now, I mean, are you going to pump out another Guardians movie? I'm down.
Well, I mean, they're down. A third one's confirmed. I mean, it's the Marvel movies. There's never going to be an unending slog of them. But that's another podcast. I'm not a big fan of the Marvel movies.
It takes away from the original idea of Epcot, which Epcot already, when it first opened, was beyond what Walt's vision for it was of being this, experimental prototype community. And it just kind of merged the future ideas and the World Showcase were just kind of like thrown together.
Well, I was about to say, like, Moana can kind of fit more in the World Showcase idea because it's about like Polynesian people and whatnot. We can talk about, Disney's cultural appropriation, and there's a different conversation. But I will say, when we were at Trader Sam's in the Polynesian area, I was taking photos and sending them to one of my friends. And like, I feel a little uncomfortable as a white guy, like here. With their big like tiki statues and stuff. I'm like, I don't know if this is offensive. Not that I'm always trying to be woke, but like I'm a little bit more aware of that kind of stuff now. But then they have Stitch merchandise. I'm like, oh, I like that. So then I move on.
That's what they do. They put just a big enough Band-Aid on it to make you look past it.
Yeah.
And maybe that's like the other sided argument to Splash Mountain that I'm not like really observing. But it's not that I don't think it's not there. It's just that I think that if you're going to rebrand something, rebrand it for something that lasts, that's timeless. Don't rebrand it Princess and the Frog just because that is the one that people want to see, because 5 years from now, when nobody knows what Princess and the Frog is, then what?
How about this then? Like, say something like the Haunted Mansion. Like, I understand, like, it's aging technologies running it and stuff. If they kind of, I don't want to say tore it down, but basically kind of
I'll never
reinvent
say
it.
that.
But
Yeah,
basically,
Why would you put that in the universe,
but
Scott?
basically keep it the same story and like have similar set pieces, but like update it so it's got like modern technology and ride systems.
But that's the
and
thing.
things.
They have done that. So at Disneyland Shanghai and Disneyland
Well, I know
France,
Shanghai had to change it because China won't let ghosts happen. So it's
well,
like
it's called
more like,
Mystic Manor there.
Yeah,
Is what
it's-
called.
but it's not like
they-
ghosts. It's like magic and stuff.
But they all have their own story. So like in Disney World, everything is about Master Gracie. He had 7 wives. The 8th one did him in. Like it has its own story. It's the same thing with Disneyland, and it's the same thing with the other 3 parks. But like the other 3, every park besides Disney World and Disneyland is much better experience in Haunted Mansion. We just love the nostalgia.
Yeah, I will say. So the Haunted Mansion is the first ride I ever rode at Disney. I wrote it. I think I was with your mom on it, Sam. And there's a it would have scared the hell out of me if I was a kid because of the Pepper ghost effects. I understand as an adult how that is. I'm like, oh, that's really cool. But as a kid, it would have freaked me out. But B, like there's a part in the room with the knockers.
Yeah.
The ride stopped for whatever reason. And I thought that was part of the ride. I'm like, this is weird. Why is it stopping here for this long?
No.
But apparently, like, so you were telling me, so probably someone with a wheelchair or someone was getting off at the end of it. Because the voiceover kept going and like was talking about how we're stopped, and I thought it was a part of it. And after like 5 minutes, I'm like, this is a weird part of this ride. But it was really cool. I really liked Haunted Mansion. But like even the queue and stuff for a lot of these things, like there's so much going on. There was the graveyard part. And like all of the different characters that are ghosts, like you can see their graves, and there's like little bios and like
Lots of puns.
like I was gonna say lots of puns, which I very much appreciate. The guy that's drowned, like water spurts out of his thing occasionally. Like it was really cool.
It
Did you
keeps
see
it
the,
engaging.
Yeah,
Did you see the riddle on the headstones that was in
Yeah.
the line? There's like this riddle where you're trying to piece together who murdered whom, and it's pretty neat. If you
I didn't see
It
that.
is
I
super
saw-
neat. We skipped it because of the events going on at the time.
Yeah, I don't know
We
how
just
much we're going
funneled
to talk. We're going to talk about it. But we had a special trip to go to Disney. So, but yeah, Haunted Mansion was good. I liked Pirates of the Caribbean a lot. Again, it had a fun queue. And then at the end, they give you chocolate coins. I was like, oh, yeah. It was also Halloween, and since it was Mickey's Not So Scary. So I did Mickey's Not So Scary one night, and then I did Universal's Halloween Horror Nights the next night. The
Very different vibes.
two extreme opposites you could do for Halloween. Like Mickey's is all about the fun, like you're trick-or-treating. They've got a stage show where the Sanderson
Hocus
sisters from
Pocus.
Hocus Pocus and like all of the Disney villains come in. And that's really cool because they project stuff up on the Cinderella's castle. It's like when Oogie Boogie comes out, it's all like Technicolor, like his sequence in the movie. And I thought that was really cool. But then the other ones, like specifically to scare you as much as they can, which most of the haunted houses are like, they were fun, but like the only one I was really scared at was the classic Universal Monster one. That was when I caught myself throughout, like kind of like this, for stuff popping out on you. For the other ones, they were fun, but they weren't as scary. The Stranger Things one, oh my God, the line on that was so long, and it was so hot, and I was dying in that line specifically. I should have done the Yeti one because apparently that one was air conditioned, so you could cool off during it. But that one would have been cool to do. But I guess unless anyone's got any other rides they want to bring up, that kind of segues into attractions if we want to get into that.
Sure.
So yeah, the Universal Halloween Horror Nights I really enjoyed. The reason I went to it is I was going to be in Florida anyway, and I was like, they were doing Ghostbusters was their big new haunted like tour house for that. And as people know, Ghostbusters is my favorite movie of all time. I was like, it's kind of kismet. I'm down here. I never take a vacation. I never do anything. Like, I'm going to go do some stuff. So I went and did that. I did the Ghostbusters one, the Universal Monster one. I did Stranger Things. I didn't do This Is Us because I didn't see the movie, so I think I would have been lost on me. I did Killer Clowns from Outer Space. And then they had a bunch of original ones, but then they like walked through areas just like Rob Zombie's something. The new Zombieland was coming out, so there was a part of it that was like you walk around and it's like zombies will chase you and stuff. Springfield is full of like a chainsaw gang. They were all like neon Tron suits, pop out and chase you with like fake chainsaws. That one was weird, and I got really annoyed because I had to keep walking through that to go to other things. But all the regular rides were just up, and because people were there to do Halloween, I kept riding the Simpsons ride because there was no line. I really enjoyed that part of the park, but that was a fun attraction. Mickey's Not So Scary was fun too. That's definitely a better one to take like families to.
Mm-hmm. It's easier. It's harder to move around because it's so packed, but it's like easier to make everyone happy there instead of having like years that I've done the Halloween Horror Nights. It's like people carrying their kids screaming and crying, the parents laughing hysterically because that's exactly why they brought them there. And it's just less functional for your family. Mickey's Not So Scary, even if you're an adult, is still a lot of fun.
Yeah, I did Mickey's Not So Scary this past October. I was down there for work, like I think the week before Halloween. Whereas me and one coworker went to Disney, everyone else did the Halloween Horror Nights. But for me, the Disney magic is just different. I can go to Six Flags if I want to get jump scared over and over, which I haven't done that since I was a lot younger. But it's definitely not a very Halloween spooky atmosphere at Disney. It's just more of the Disney magic. Mm-hmm. Oh, there goes the train.
I've never been down to any of the parks for the Halloween events, but I did go to Universal for their Harry Potter celebration, which was really cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, they had a couple sound stages set up with props from the movie and different interactive experiences, and they had some actors come and talk. And one thing that stood out to me was they have this big stage in Universal, the Studios park, where they have concerts and bands and stuff. But like this one, it was included with your theme park admission, and you could just, walk up and listen to the actors and stuff. And it was just so different than, like a Comic-Con experience where you're stuck in lines and you're trying to get up to the stage and you're behind, you have to wait in all these lines and stuff to get up to the actors. This one, everybody could just come up and listen. You could walk away, you could go mill about and get food. And it was just a really cool, like just celebration, like what's in the name, of the franchise. So. It was a really neat event.
I think too, like Disney does their own concert series for all of their festivals, and I can maybe pick 2 acts out of 50 where I'm like, oh, I definitely need to go see that. But whenever Universal does their concert series, it's just a better experience. It's an actual concert, whereas at Disney, okay, it's a concert, but it's a concert that lasts 20 minutes. And then it plays 3 times a day for 3 days, that particular act. You won't get the same experience at Universal Studios because maybe they play 1 or maybe 2 times over 2 days, but it's a full-fledged concert. So I do think they do a better job with that. It's like more endearing, less just pumping out the dollars.
Yeah. So yeah, I was gonna say when we were doing Mickey's Not So Scary, I don't think we sat through that whole stage show, but we saw it like 3 times.
Yeah, we kept catching it at different pieces.
Yeah. It was fun. Another thing about Mickey's Not So Scary was nice is there's like a story throughout the night that they're playing over the loudspeakers. So like Mickey and his friends are having a party, and then the Sanderson sisters want to make it they want to ruin it, so they summon all the Disney villains. But what I liked about it, because I love Nightmare Before Christmas, is that it was revealed at the end as we were leaving that the narrator was Jack Skellington. And I was like, oh, that's cool. But another thing that they do is there's a lot of like exclusive like food and like things to get. Because I know I got like a big Jack cup, which was kind of annoying to take back home with me on the plane because he didn't fit in anything because he's so long. But that was also the only time I saw a plastic straw the entire time I was down in Florida.
Disney does do a good job with making it exclusive. Like, you pay a lot of money to be there, and I can't say that it's worth the money anymore because the scenario doesn't change that often. So like if we went last year, it's going to be almost identical Celebration this year. So I can't say that it's something where I would pay for it every year now. But when you go, you do get the advantage of the exclusiveness. One of the exclusives that we got when we went last time was you got the bride cupcake. And it was like a Jell-O cupcake with an axe in it. And like you couldn't get that unless you were at the event. And so that really hit high with me because of circumstances and because Haunted Mansion. But
Haunted Mansion was celebrating what, its 50th anniversary that year too?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I remember there was a lot of merch for that, like specifically.
And so like I do enjoy that. I do enjoy whenever they have a festival, the uniqueness that it brings. I just wish that it was more intimate and less monetary.
I can agree with that. But yeah, we're talking about exclusive things. Let's talk about souvenirs. I kind of got into the pins. I wish I knew more about it going down because I would have bought like a big mess of them on eBay for trading.
Pin trading.
Yeah.
I had that.
You don't want to buy a bunch of fakes and be that person.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the ones
know.
on eBay aren't real. See, yeah. I've done some research and I was like, this is too much. There's too many fakes. This is like drama I don't need. Like every collector community, there's always stuff like that. Well, so I just do it casually.
Because that's the problem with Disney for me. It's like intellectually, like they do all these things that annoy me. And then I'm like, oh, it's Donald Duck. And then I like kind of
forget about it. No, the pin trading hobby is there are like anything. There's like whole sub forums and Reddits and Facebook groups and stuff dedicated to it. If you are unfamiliar with the Disney pin trading, and Universal does their own version of it too, like the cast members at each ride and people in the shops and the restaurants, they all have their own bag or board of pins, and you can trade with them as long as it's a Disney pin. You can trade one for one, and they accept it. And there's exclusive pins that only the cast members have that have like
hidden
a special
Mickeys
logo on them. Yeah, the hidden Mickeys. So it can be a really fun, I don't know, like a side quest while you're at the parks. Something to look forward to and look for. But like Scott said, you might want to come armed with some, to go with, because you don't want to buy a pin, fall in love with it, and then have nothing to trade with.
And it's expensive to buy a pin and then trade it. And so sometimes you get people where their kids have just aged out of it. They don't see the value. And yeah, absolutely. There are definitely a lot of fakes on eBay. But I mean, I used to go at least once a year, every year, sometimes more. And I would get 5 pins every time. And then it just adds up. And it's like, okay, well, I don't need this stuff anymore. So it's okay to trade, right? And so I have like a hat box. It's like a Victoria's Secret hat box filled to the brim, it barely shuts, with pins. So if anyone wants to trade, just let me know. I will send them to you.
Yeah, I try to only buy one non-Star Wars pin each time, so it's a pretty small collection. I don't know what happened to my ones from when I was a kid either. Who knows where those ones ended up. But it's the Star Wars ones I have a problem with.
I say I've got almost all of the ones I have are on my lanyard at work. So if you come into the store, you'll see like my Darkwing Duck one and stuff. Because I think, Sam, you found that one for me. I was like,
yeah, I have a soft spot for the hard characters.
Yeah. I was done buying them. I'm like, all right, I'm done. Because I also got them as souvenirs for everyone else at work. Because, I took like a week off. And I was like, I want to bring them back something. So it's kind of done. And she's like, here's this one that's Darkwing Duck. And I'm like, that's how they get you, Yeah.
I was going to ask.
Yeah.
I was going to ask the rest of you guys if there's like a particular character or attraction or something that you look for in your souvenirs or pins or.
I mean, I really love, it's sort of a sickness, besides Haunted Mansion, Mr. Toad and 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea.
Cool.
And so I'm an old soul, I guess, and I never got to go on 20,000 when it was in Disney World. It was closed every time that I went. So it's kind of like that I'm chasing that Nautilus, if you will.
Yeah.
So whenever I see merch for it, I'm like, oh, just take my money. and then the same thing for Mr. Toad. But it's like hard because like they've now coupled Mr. Toad with Ichabod Crane, which I also really love, but they don't necessarily belong together. And now it's like you can't buy one without the other. And Mr. Toad stuff is so expensive.
I had a VHS tape, and it was the two of them together.
Yeah, as I said, they're paired together a lot.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so I remember being 6 years old, and that was, besides Haunted Mansion, that was the one ride at Disney that was my favorite ride because I got to drive a car. Right? And I was hooked on that. And so now this year, COVID, let me knock, now that I'm turning the ripe old age of 34, I think I'm going to go to Disneyland and ride Mr. Toad again.
So you get used to it. I'm the oldest on the call, so don't complain. But yeah, I'm just saying, like, I haven't had as much experience with this, you guys, but I love the Disney Ducks. So, like, especially if it's like Scrooge. I like Darkwing. Nightmare Before Christmas, I have a soft spot for. There's a lot of other movies they have that I really like, but I don't think I would necessarily like go pin crazy. The pins I got this year, I got the Donald Holland one, like Halloween one, where he's like a ghost or something. I got Jack in front of the icon of Cinderella's castle, but it's all done in like Tim Burton style. And I got that Darkwing Duck one. At Universal, I got a Jurassic Park one, and I got the Halloween Horror Nights Ghostbusters one because I kind of had to.
Nice.
Because those are my number 1 and number 3 favorite movies. They don't have Back to the Future merch really anymore. That's number 2.
It's a sickness. They need to fix it.
Yeah, they're putting out a lot of 30th anniversary like retro merch right now. So it's like the original Universal logo and things like that. So like they're starting to hit me.
You were showing me the glassware set and stuff, where it's like all the original rides and things. Like, so Back to the Future had one.
Yep.
I think that they don't have any room, like real estate anymore, because a lot of the property that you see at Universal Studios isn't actually accessible to the public, because they have a lot of real life sound stages where they do actually film TV shows and movies.
Oh yeah, the studios is because they're a studio.
They are actually a studio. So unless they decide to tear all that down, they don't have a whole lot of footprint to work with anymore. But I really wish that they would come up with like a Movie Land version of it.
Yeah,
unfortunately,
Epic Universe.
Yeah.
Well, let me not hold my breath.
Yeah.
I doubt we'll see any investments coming soon from Universal.
No, they're having a real hard time.
Happened.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And now Disney owns like half their stuff now, because now that they've got Simpsons and Marvel, and I know because of the buyout, like Disney's going to honor any contract that Marvel had, and I know Marvel's thing was like, because they were going bankrupt, they were selling everything for a song, and as long as their characters are being used, and they can just have them in perpetuity for Marvel characters in the area, but like they didn't have Guardians as part of the deal, which is why they're in California now.
I love the Marvel Disney contract like story. That is like one of my favorites as an attorney. It speaks near and dear to my heart.
Are we taking this back to like, what did they say? Anything of the Mason-Dixon line?
East of the Mississippi.
Yes,
east of the Mississippi.
Yeah.
And the characters have to be in use by Universal. So that's one of the reasons why Disney's kind of getting away with Guardians, is because Universal has never used the Guardians of the Galaxy characters.
Well, because those characters weren't even a thing when that happened.
But Disney is still handcuffed by some of the ways that this contract still exists on the books, so they can't put Marvel, the name Marvel, on any of the stuff that they're doing. So even when the Guardians of the Galaxy ride comes out, it'll say Guardians of the Galaxy, but it'll miss that Marvel branding, which, big deal. But they have stores that they can't open. In Disney Springs, they have a superhero store. They wanted to name it like the Marvel superhero store, but they can't.
It's called the Marvel Vault.
Yeah, they can't because of that contract. And so, they're limited to Universal gets to use all these characters. But the flip side of that is Universal's characters and the artwork and everything is kind of frozen in time from the mid-90s, from, when they originally had it. So
because Disney won't approve any changes, because why would they? Yeah, exactly. Why would they? That said, I am excited about that. Because if I go back to Universal, I really want to do Islands Adventure because I really want to ride the Spider-Man ride. Also because I loved that cartoon as a kid. So it's all the original version of it. I can't do that with anything else I wanted to do from Universal because I can't ride Back to the Future, can't do King Kong, can't do Jaws, stuff like that. I can't see the Ghostbusters Spooktacular. Yeah. But it's weird because a lot of that stuff aren't Universal movies, and they had to license them, so they were kind of always going to be temporary.
Well, too, with the Hulk, which is their biggest roller coaster draw over there besides Rip Rock Rocket, is if the Hulk closes, they cannot reopen. So like they can close for like general maintenance, that kind of thing. But if they try and close for a refurb, they cannot reopen.
Wow.
So if they close, they have to rebrand.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, they were able to freshen up some things. I know they gave it like a new coat of paint or new tracking or something.
Yeah, recently. They did something with Hulk. I know now it like roars or something when you're getting launched.
Yeah, there was something they changed with it. And then Spider-Man, they kind of upgraded the ride film to HD. So they did, unfortunately, Scott, they took out some of that 90s animated series-ness of it.
I mean, it's probably a better ride now.
But I don't know. Like there is some give and take between Marvel and Disney with this Marvel contract, but it's just so funny because you look out in California and they're planning an entire Marvel themed area, the Avengers campus, and the Spider-Man ride to go with it. And you look over here on the East Coast and you're like, well, why can't they? And it's this darn Marvel Universal contract.
I know. So we're kind of all losers in this situation, but because now we're not going to be like, because there's no X-Men ride now. Right,
because the X-Men characters appear in Marvel Superhero Island. But the thing you have to keep in mind, too, is that island was created before this immersive entertainment thing was a big thing. That island came about before the Marvel Cinematic Universe became a thing. So, you know, when Islands of Adventure opened, it was late. It was 99.
I mean, the X-Men were a big deal in the 90s. I'm surprised. I know they have walk-around characters, yeah.
But like,
I mean, the comic was like the number one selling comics then too.
And you'll see a lot of the Marvel X-Men branding there. You know, there's a lot of Magneto and the Jim Lee style X-Men. But you'll look around and you'll be like, well, where's Captain America? Where's Iron Man? Why is Robert Downey Jr. not around here? And like, there are small references to them. Cap has his own cafe, but it's not as big as you would expect with the way the Marvel universe is now.
Is the Captain America cafe called the Capfe?
I don't think so. I think it's some American Justice Cafe. The Fantastic Four also have a restaurant in there.
Well, I know Dr. Doom has a ride.
Yeah.
Isn't he like, the story of it is like, he's got some sort of weapon that's powered by screams or something. So he's like, he sucks you up on this experiment. I don't know.
You got it. You hit the nail on the head.
I mean, that's a fun idea for a ride. I'm glad they did Doom instead of Fantastic Four, just because that's something more different.
I think they just took whatever 90s animated cartoons they had at the time and were like, all right, Spider-Man, we're going to do that. They have a Storm ride for the X-Men. We'll do Fantastic Four. Let's go. Yeah,
they all had cartoons. And like Cap was in Spider-Man a whole bunch. Iron Man was too, and Iron Man had a cartoon. But I think it flopped really hard. Because I remember as a kid, like, Iron Man was a character. I was like, oh, he showed up in Spider-Man to fight Carnage in this episode. And then he'd go away, and I'd be like, all right, I don't need any more. I know you're a big Iron Man guy, but like as a kid, he was just a character that was there. I didn't care about him really.
I mean, I wish we could see what they would have been able to do now, or what Disney would be able to do.
I mean, an Iron Man ride would be the bomb.
Yeah.
Even if it's just an arc reactor, just like ratchets you around or something, you know.
They have an Iron Man ride in, I want to say,
France, right?
One of the Asian Disney parks. I'm not
sure. I thought it was Euro or Disneyland France or whatever the one in France is.
I know that I have seen though, and again, this goes back to will it ever happen, you know? But where Guardians is in Epcot, and where the adjacent properties to it, you know, they've kind of said that they're going to take that whole archway and make that all Marvel characters, and so those rides inevitably, as a result, would be rebranded as well. So it's like, I don't personally go on many of those rides because they spin in circles and I'm old now, so that's not for me. But if they rebranded it, you know, it still has its own potential, even though it won't quite be the same as its own original ride, the rides we love.
And Scott, one other quick fun fact about Marvel Superhero Island, that was originally going to be DC.
Oh yeah, it was going to be DC, but then Warner Brothers, who owns DC, bought Six Flags. Mm-hmm. And so like, well, we have our own theme parks now. So that's why all of the DC stuff's at Six Flags. I was about to say, I haven't been to Great Adventure is the one in Jersey. I haven't been there since high school. We went there for senior cut day. And I went
last year.
Yeah.
It's different.
And you're the one that doesn't live in New Jersey anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, I've only been once in the last decade, so.
Yeah. It was fun. I think I still have a bear dressed as Batman that I won at a game there. But like that was the year I think like the Superman ride had come out. Mm-hmm. And I'm terrified of roller coasters, so I didn't ride.
I can't do roller coasters either. So that's why would I go to Six Flags?
Six Flags is like out of the question.
Yeah. So because they're less of an immersive thing and more of a thrill park.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. They just kind of slap a superhero's name on a ride. So it's like, well, Superman does have the theming of it's like a ride where you're sitting your face forward in like the Superman pose. But it's like, all right, Batman, it's a roller coaster, but there's no story to it.
The Mr. Freeze ones just goes backwards.
Don't threaten them because when they put a story to it, it's awful.
Oh no.
Because like now it's not Chiller and whatever anymore, where it was like the slingshot ride that shot you up. Mm-hmm. Now it's like Arkham something, and the Joker escaped from Arkham Asylum, and they basically just took the Crazy Mouse, which I know is unique for us, but I feel like there's a Crazy Mouse in every county. Mm-hmm. And they just stuck Batman on it, and it's awful. So don't threaten them with a good time.
It's true. I guess if you have the ability to make those types of immersive entertainment, you're going to Disney or Universal. You're going somewhere that's not Six Flags, where they can just slap something on there.
Yeah, they're better off doing something different and not trying to do the same thing.
Then they take Medusa, which was a fantastic ride, and made it Bizarro, which is fine. They just painted it a different color and put Bizarro up on a billboard, and now it's Bizarro.
It's one thing to just kind of slap a character on a ride, but it's another thing to like, this is the section that's Gotham City and it's immersive and whatnot. Or like, here's the part that's Metropolis, and like the Daily Planet building's got a shop in it and stuff like that. You can buy like a fake newspaper,
I do have to give a shout out to the Batman stunt show that they used to have at Six Flags. So they would theme it off of whatever Batman ride was out at the time. And you can find videos of these on YouTube. They looked awesome. I mean, like there was a full Batmobile, like Keaton Mobile replica driving around, and people were jumping in and out of it dressed as the Penguin and Catwoman. And then they did like a Riddler and Two-Face version when Batman Forever came out. I mean, they really looked like they put a lot of time and money into that stunt show. And it was a good time.
Yeah, would be cool. There was a while there because I remember the commercials all the time because there was like so many Batman movies coming out all the time in the 90s that, there was always like a big push for whatever. Like, when Batman Robin came out, that's when Chiller and a bunch of other things, they would always revamp the Batman stuff of the park. How many Batman coasters were there? Like 4?
3 or 4?
Yeah, because a lot of them. They have a lot there now too with Harley Quinn and Joker. They just added to the park pretty recently.
I mean, I get it. I mean, they're still making movies based on those characters, so might as well. If all you're doing is just slapping a character on a coaster, might as well just keep doing it. Mm-hmm. But another thing that people go to theme parks a lot for is for the food. And I will say, at the Simpsons part, there's like all of the different restaurants you can have. And I got a Krusty Burger, which was really good. But I got the thing that saved my life at both of the parks is I got a Squishy from the Quickie Mart. It comes in like a thermal like cup that's reusable, but it lasted me all day, and it was like cold for hours, and it was so hot. It was so hot in October in Florida. I don't know how you guys live down there all year round, but like it's the only thing that kept me like alive. But like it was really good. I got a cherry one. I recommend that. But I know food's a big part of like stuff. There's always exclusive stuff. We were talking about the exclusive cake and things like that that you can only get certain nights even.
So if you go to any theme park, and I don't know if you guys can really chip in for this, but if you go to any theme park, you have to get the food. And Disney always has the hidden food items. So like it used to be at Epcot, you had to get lavender lemonade, which now they only have for Art Festival, but they used to have it all the time. If you went to Magic Kingdom, you had to go to get the bathtub, everything but the kitchen sink sundae, or Dole Whip, right? Mm-hmm. And so now they have a couple different variations of Dole Whip. If you go to Animal Kingdom, you have to get it's called Cactus Lemonade from Yak and Yeti. They only have it there. They're nice enough that if you go to the bar and ask for it, they'll let you take it away. It comes alcoholic and non-alcoholic. And that one's Desert Pear Lemonade is what it is, but it's a picture of the cactus on it. And then at Universal, you have to get Green Fishy Ale from Diagon Alley. That's like, I can't go without getting that. And it's basically bubble tea.
I couldn't figure out how to get into Diagon Alley when I was there.
Well, you're not alone.
I saw.
They usually have a guy out there telling people, like trying to point people.
I saw a part that was very clearly a British street, and it had the bus. Mm-hmm. It was just like, and then at a distance you can see the dragon at Gringotts. like over the buildings. I'm like, I can't figure it out. But I was like, I'm only here for a couple of hours before the Halloween stuff starts. So I want to hit like the regular rides first.
My dad was so mad the first time we all went down there because he thought that my sister and I dragged all of them down to Universal to just see that little London street fight. And he's like, why were the kids so excited for this? This is garbage. Because they couldn't figure out you have to go through the building into the back.
But it is very nice once you're in.
Yeah. It would have been nice to see that. But if I when I go to Universal again, I definitely want to do Islands Adventure Harry Potter specifically rather than, because now I've been to Studios. I would like to go do that.
Tara,
yeah.
I wanted to hear more about the Galaxy's Edge food because like there's a lot of it.
Yeah,
like,
how's the blue milk, Tara?
The foods, so they only have one quick service restaurant. There's no sit down, and the food's fine. It's like what you would expect from Disney. It's not anything special in my mind, and I feel guilty talking crap about my favorite park and favorite section of a park. But yeah, that's why I don't eat there normally. I just go to the cantina for drinks, and those drinks are really good. Definitely get the fuzzy tauntaun.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
that's like the number one recommended. What, Scott?
What is that for real? Like, what is it?
So I don't know what it actually is.
It's like a mimosa and a fuzzy navel together.
Yeah.
I was gonna guess if it's a funny
that's a good description.
Because I'm sure they sell like chicken and stuff, but it's probably called like Raktar and weird Star Wars.
Well, they changed
names.
the name, so it used to have the weird Star Wars names, and then it wasn't selling because people didn't know what it was. So now the names.
But yeah. So what's the blue milk taste like? Is it actually milk?
That I haven't had because I've only been there with just my husband, and I don't think he's gonna like it. So I was waiting till I went with my whole family when we were supposed to go in April so we could try both. So we could like pass it around. Not only will we not be passing drinks around and sharing for a while, but obviously we won't be down there for a while. So that was one thing I was saving. But snack wise, their popcorn in Galaxy's Edge is actually really good. They have like a sweet and spicy popcorn. And I get that every time I'm down there.
It actually doesn't sound too bad.
Nice.
I liked when I went into the cantina how like we went for an opening review, so they would only let you order 2 drinks and then they made you leave. So, but it was, I mean, like after 2 drinks, like I was good to go at that point. We spent for 4 drinks, it was $116. So it is pricey, but there is seating room, but you sit, it's like several bars. Not necessarily bars what you would think is like a bartender on the other side, but several like long high top sort of tables to just like lean on and talk to everyone that you're around, and the experience was well worth the money and the drinks were good.
That's the one with the DJ from Star Tours, right?
DJ Rex.
They repurposed Rex from Star Tours and now he's a DJ there, which is cool.
Yeah, I listen to the music sometimes. It's actually pretty good.
I was about to say the other place, speaking of getting drinks at Disney, Trader Sam's in the Polynesian Resort was really cool.
One of my favorites.
Because it's like a crazy room, and as you order drinks, different things will trigger. And the drinks come in like these crazy cups. And if you pay like a bunch of extra money, you get to keep it. And you have a full complement of them now, right, Sam?
I have almost all of them, yes.
Oh, I thought we got the last one when we were there.
No, we got the last one that I really wanted. The other one's kind of cycle. So the other one is like the shrunken head. And so there's a glass version, or there's a
well, we got, what was that big one
ceramic
we got?
version? We got a Nautilus.
Yeah, that one was really good. The drink.
I still need the shrunken head, and I still need the Oa. But again, they cycle in and out with different ones.
I think I had the shrunken head one. I remember not being as into that one as I was the Nautilus drink. That one was good.
Yeah, but they recently came out with the Hatbox Ghost one. So it's a tiki but it's Hatbox. So I obviously had to spend all of my money on that.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I know you're big on Haunted Mansion.
I have way more than I care to admit.
Yeah.
I have to give a shout out to the Blue Bayou in Disneyland. Their New Orleans section has this chicken gumbo that is just amazing. It's like top 5 food I've ever had. I just absolutely love it. And if anybody out on the West Coast is over there or going over there, definitely if you can get in, try it. And it's a really cool little porch setup, like you're down in New Orleans on somebody's porch, and the Pirates of the Caribbean boats float by as you.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
I'll do it. Sure. You sold me.
Definitely check it out.
Tara, you've been to some international parks, right?
I have not.
Okay, never mind.
Not yet.
I really want to go to Disneyland Sea and ride the Journey to the Center of the Earth ride. Apparently, is awesome.
So
yeah, I had plans to go to China, but my friend moved back to the States, so that's why that got delayed.
So they ruined everything.
Basically.
Tell them to go back so that you can go to the park.
It's like it was their third time going back and forth, so there's a good chance.
Speaking of parks, we want to go to. I've mentioned it a couple of times. I want to go to Hollywood Studios Hollywood Studios and Galaxy's Edge. I want to do Islands of Adventure, Harry Potter. I'm waiting for Nintendo Land to open up at Universal and head down there. I know Harry also really wants to do that as well. And I might be a brave boy and go on all the rides. I'll just do the kiddie ones, but I'm curious to see because I know it's getting built in Japan first, which I know was supposed to go for the Olympics, which obviously aren't happening now either. Since Nintendo's like sponsoring them. But is there any other like parks you guys haven't been to that you'd really like to go to, or some upcoming like trail rides or attractions that you haven't been able to go to yet?
Well, I used to always really want to do the Tron roller coaster. I think that's Shanghai, or is that Tokyo? Shanghai, yeah. Mm-hmm. And now they're bringing it here, so I don't have to fly across the world to ride it. But
it might
obviously
still be worth it.
It'll probably be different, and who knows when they're gonna finish.
I mean, the experience around it's probably gonna be a lot more interesting. You know, you get to go to another country and stuff.
I'm just happy to see Disney investing in the Tron franchise again.
I know.
It's crazy that they seem
one of my
like
favorite old
they left it for dead, and now they're like, we're gonna build a ride for it in Magic Kingdom. It's like, okay, all right.
I was going to say, of any of their like movies that they don't push, that would make a really cool theme park attraction.
I know. It's
Tron.
Sells itself. Come on.
Yeah. Also, you can have like an arcade and stuff built into it. Like, there's so many cool things you could do with it beyond just like, oh, here's a roller coaster that is all neon-y,
Well, the skeleton of the ride is sort of up right now, and so if you take the monorail or anything like that, I don't do gondolas. You will never find me on that. I think that's the worst investment they've ever done, but. If you did that,
worse than Magic Bands? Come on.
No, God. First of all, the first day that it went off, and obviously there's going to be hiccups, but any ride that has a survival kit underneath the seat, I'm out.
I remember following that on Twitter, and I still went on it when I went down there.
So you're not in a box? You're not that kind of thrill seeker?
No, I'll jump off the gondola.
Dude, my two biggest phobias, I'm claustrophobic and I'm scared of heights. So like that's a
Tower of Terror. That's your ride.
I really want to ride. All right. So I talked about this with Sam when we're down there. I really want to do Tower of Terror. I know I will freak out right when I get to the front of the line and have to leave.
But you don't get to see, like on Tower of Terror when you're dropping, you don't get to see you're dropping. You just get to see the initial, like where you see that you're up high. So there's the perception that you're dropping.
I'm all psyched out.
But the ride doesn't fall that far.
Yeah. It's really not that bad. I was scared of it. I feel like we're close to being the same. We don't like roller coasters and stuff. But I rode it for the first time after going there a dozen times or more in my life last year. And I was like, wow, I wasted so much time not riding this.
It's so fun.
Maybe I'll save up an extra $100 to get drunk beforehand.
That's not a good idea.
Yeah, I'll probably
projectile, and then it'll come down on you several times.
Yeah,
but that's another one that I'll go to bat for the Disneyland version too, because the Guardians of the Galaxy, I know it was a big controversy, but I think they should both exist. I think we should have both versions on the two different coasts.
I like having different versions on different coasts.
Yeah,
but don't put that into the ether, where they're going to take that from me.
I do hear that the Guardians refurbishment of it is pretty awesome because it goes in time to like the music and stuff. And each time you ride it, because each time you ride Haunted Mansion, you get a different experience now. But like I know because they'll change the ride to like you'll get different songs each time you ride it. And like apparently the Rocket Raccoon, I saw a video of it. The animatronic for him is really good.
It's really really cool.
I want to ride it also because I'm a big Twilight Zone fan. So like I'm afraid that they'll get rid of it.
There's new Twilight Zone technically, so
yeah, but Disney
relevant.
but they would be like, I'm sure Disney sees more dollar signs making it Guardians of the Galaxy. But
I think they should both exist separately. Like I understand the controversy
I
and
agree.
The traditional because again, it's one more thing with. I mean, it is themed off of Twilight Zone, but I think it's a very loose theme. I want to
it has its own story.
Original. Yeah.
Well, it's its original. Well, what makes the Twilight Zone part of it great is the Twilight Zone is just us anthology show. So it's just another story that could fit in with the Twilight Zone like theme and style. And I know they got they didn't get him to record stuff for it because he was already dead, but they have he does open and close it. And that's really cool.
They were building a secret bar. So just like how Trader Sam's is a secret, not so secret, but secret.
Yeah.
They were building that. There's a courtyard adjacent to it, and they were building that there, and now they're not. I know, I'm sad.
That would have been really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the theming in that area, the tower, the lawns outside, I mean, it's so immersive. Before they did the immersive stuff, it's really cool that they went through that much effort for what's essentially a drop tower ride. It's really, really cool. That Disney magic.
I almost previous relationship very early on in my 20s, I almost got married there because they do that where they line everything up when you walk in, and it's like the lounge area, they line it up as like an aisle, and it's one of their options to do. You have to do it at 6:00 in the morning. But to me, that's worth it. We decided to go a different, way more exciting route, but that's an option.
I think the route you went was awesome.
It was perfectly planned.
Yes. Flawlessly executed by all involved.
Scott, I mean, about your question about the future, I mean, it's so up in the air right now because the virus is hammering these parks. They've never been closed this long before. But, I hope that things like Epic Universe, that's the new Universal park with the theme, the Super Nintendo World, I hope those plans don't, go away or get reduced from what they were announced. Because
I know at least
the art looked awesome.
I know at least the Japanese park is very much under construction because occasionally people will be able to take photos of it, and like you can see like all of the Mario landscapes and stuff like that. So that one's probably too far under development, and like they can kind of still do construction. I obviously wouldn't have been open to crowds anyway, but like who knows when they'll break ground here now.
Yeah.
And I really think they have no choice but to be optimistic because eventually we'll be back to some kind of normal. It won't be our original normal.
Yeah, we'll have some sort of vaccine,
There'll be something, and eventually these people are going to need to get out of the house. And Disney and Universal, it's so expensive to go, but like as a family attraction, they make it so affordable, being able to pay over time. So these people are going to go somewhere. And I think that they're banking that they're going to go right here to Orlando, or they're going to go to Anaheim. And there's not a whole lot of in the middle.
Yeah,
and we're also kind of in the middle of this renaissance for these theme parks. Like I don't know. I mean, I feel like Disney is always kind of upgrading and reiterating, but I know for Universal, I mean, they were dormant before Harry Potter came along. They were just, I mean, it was almost like a dead park, and now it's become a park where you go maybe 2 to 3 days out of your vacation, and they're starting to steal some of the Disney share away. I feel like Disney maybe kind of rested on being in first place until Harry Potter started eating into that, and then they're like, oh well, let's open the Star Wars land. I know they were doing Pandora forever, but we're in the middle of this expansion of theme parks, and it's a great time to be a fan. But like I said, I hope this virus doesn't stop that, because there was a lot of really cool things to look forward to on the horizon. There was the Ministry of Magic expansion that they were going to do for the Harry Potter areas, and the Star Wars hotel, and those kinds of plans. So
yeah, I mean, fortunately the hotel is pretty far in construction, so they're definitely going to finish that. I think everything's just going to be delayed, which is fine because all of our lives are delayed, so to speak. So I think it falls in line with when people will be ready to go back.
Yeah, I know. I like I said, I wanted to make plans to go back down later this year, but I had to. I know I'm not the only one in this boat. I had to burn a bunch of my paid time off. When the pandemic first started, and we weren't quite. We didn't quite get unemployment and didn't quite get our payroll protection loan yet. So there was a way we can start making sure that our employees were getting paid and whatnot. We're all good, like for us, but that does change plans a little bit. And then you know, even if we get back open to like kind of normal, I don't know how much I want to be in with crowds. It's like sometimes I go to Target now and I'm like, it's too many people. I'm going to leave, you know, even with masks and stuff.
You know, whether you're in California or whether you're anywhere, wherever there's a Disney park, except for maybe France, it's in a pretty warm climate. So you're going to be in 100-degree weather with humid and 25,000 people around you, and you're going to have cloth blocking your face. And it's a necessary evil. Yeah. But I mean, like, I can't say that you're going to see me sweating my ass off with a mask, barely breathing, just to see Mickey Mouse.
Some of those rides also, like the queues aren't built for that. I'm thinking the Haunted Mansion, that choke point when you first are about to board the vehicle, you're really close to people. And you know, we didn't think about a contagious virus at the time when these things are being designed. So.
I think they're probably going to close the vestibule, you know, and that the theme is still going to go, the music's still going to play, but they're going to escort people through 6 at a time. You know, U6, 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 stop. U6, 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 stop. And so I think it'll still be there, but it's definitely not going to be 35 people shoulder to shoulder in a room anymore.
Yeah. I will say, speaking of Haunted Mansion, we didn't bring it up when we did attractions, but one thing that was really cool, Sam, you would know better than me, did they only do the ghost, like, meet and greet picture things?
The Gravediggers?
Yeah, that stuff just because it was Halloween, or did they do that all the time?
Just for the Halloween Horror Nights, and that's now look where I am. Just for Mickey's Not So Scary, just so we're clear. But that's like part of the
winning.
The going into the ticket price is like these things that you can't do anywhere else. Like in Disneyland, after Halloween, they basically take everything and they make it Jack Skellington. So that's part of the ticket price. You know, it draws people in for $100 a night. You know, and the cheapest one last year was $89 a night. You had to go on like a Thursday in September. Did we do it on Friday? Is that when we did it?
Friday, because then Saturday we all fell asleep all day long. Yeah. And then Sunday's when I went to Universal.
We did like Friday, the first Friday of October is $139 a person. That's steep if you're a family of 6, you know, or 4. And so it does really build into that. It makes it so much more enjoyable. I personally, I shouldn't speak because I have the luxury of being able to go on these rides whenever I want, but like the rides are kind of like secondary to the experience when you go to that show.
I definitely agree. And I think those nights and having all this, it's really important for them to get pass holders to spend extra money, like just talking from a business perspective, because they don't make money from locals coming in every day. But these nights are almost as much as a park ticket. So you're getting them to pay a park ticket price for these parties. Yeah. And so if you're not making it worth this extra cost when they can go during the day for free. Then you need to offer these additional experiences.
I think so too. They could get more money out of me, and I'm pretty stingy with Disney right now because the experience has deteriorated in the last 2 years. Just the amount of people, the intake versus the output, if that makes sense. So like they're bringing in all these school tours and bus tours, and it used to be like staggered, but now it's like all at the same time. You can't even get into the park. There's no peak, non-peak anymore. There's no off-season.
There's no non-peak. If the next person to ask me when they should go down to Disney, I just want to be like, just take a guess, because you never know.
Exactly.
And I was down there during Halloween or near Halloween. There was like no one in Galaxy's Edge the one day I was there. I was like, you wouldn't have been able to predict it. It's just you have to get lucky. There's no off and on season.
And so I really wish that not only did they not do that, of course, but I understand money is money, but I wish if they were making the decision to do that the people that they were hiring to crowd herd, were a little more prepared for what they were doing. So I've had a couple Disney Horror Stories recently. My experience has deteriorated, but I would gladly pay them more money if there was a low volume night. Like if it was guaranteed only 4,000 people can get in kind of night. And they could get a lot of money out of me out of that, because the reason why my experience is deteriorating is how can I be mad at this college graduate that's in an intern program that they're seeing legitimately 2 million people a day, and 2 million people are being maybe nice or not so nice. So how can I really hold that person accountable for 100% of their actions circumstantially, right? Yeah. But like, you're going through this, you pay all this money, you pay money to be there, you pay money to park, you pay money to travel. As a tourist, I would be like, hell no. And so it's weird. Like at Pirates of the Caribbean, the woman thought that I was the small child. I'm 30 something years old, that I was the small child of the people in front of me. And so they were trying to squish us as a family of 4 in the front seat, and it only fits 2 in the front seat.
Sorry.
So
I just tried to imagine that.
These people, first, if you know me personally, you know that did not fly.
Yeah, that's really why I'm laughing.
And so she's telling me to go, and I'm not listening to her. I'm not like being rude. The other people went, they sat down, the door's shut. I'm waiting for my turn. You know, I didn't combat her or anything. And then she pulls on my shirt and tells me, points in my face to go. It was very not PC for anyone in that room at that moment. And it's like, I'm not going to go, right? And then we get stuck on the ride.
Oh, no.
So when we get stuck on the ride, my boat is almost up to the deboarding part, right? And we're there for 10 minutes, logically waiting for the ride to restart. Now we're there for 20 minutes. So I say to the girl, listen, like, can't we just walk off? It's like right there. And she says, no, it's a liability. And I'm like, okay, fine, right? 45 minutes later, they tell me to walk off. Oh. So they held me, first of all, they insulted me and held me hostage. So it's like, my Disney experience is less. I would gladly pay more money for a better experience. And even though I don't really know where my money is going, I would like to think it would go to better housing or a better work-life balance for the people who actually deal with that, because they're the foundation of the park, really. You know, if you don't have a good group, if you will, your ride's not going to be that great.
Yeah. Well, speaking of trips, I learned a couple of things doing Disney and Universal back-to-back. And I'd kind of like to pass on some wisdom from what I've learned and what some of you veterans know about going to parks to help people out. First and foremost, go with someone who knows the park you're at. I would have gotten way less out of Magic Kingdom if I wasn't with you. And I know I got way less out of Universal going by myself, because when I came back, I was talking to Harry about all of the things that I missed that I would have really enjoyed seeing. So it definitely helps if you can go with somebody who knows. Wear comfortable clothing. My back was on fire at the end of both of those nights. Like, I couldn't do Splash Mountain and a lot of those other things. It's like, my back is killing me too much. It would have hurt me really badly to be in like a ride. Which I know is why we did like some of the like Little Mermaid and those kinds of things at the end, where I was just like, I need to sit down. And then something to keep you cool. My squishy helped me a lot, but like Florida, man, I don't know how you deal with that. It was so hot and so humid. And I'm like, it's fall.
Yeah, I've been there in July and August, and
I can't imagine.
It's really brutal. You just have to have your expectations have to reflect reality when it comes to the weather in Florida. You know, downpours in the afternoon, 100 degrees with humidity. You just have to be ready to not do everything. I think it's really hard. As an annual pass holder, it's very lucky. I never have that pressure. I go back to the hotel for a nap when it's hot. But people always feel the pressure to do everything possible. And I get that. I'm a huge planner, but you're not going to enjoy yourself if you try to do too much and push yourself too much, especially if you're down there when it's hot.
I agree. If you're a person that's staying there and you think that you can do everything you want to do in 3 days, fine. But I think whatever day you think you need, you should always add 2. And yes, expense is a huge thing. But the way Disney works it out is after you pay for 5 days, the rest are almost nothing. The rest is like $12 a day to go. So if you were going to go for 5, just go for 7. If you're going to go for 3, just go for 5. If you're going to going back to what you're saying, Tara, like have a reasonable expectation. If you know you're going to be there on short time, just pick one thing that is your diehard thing that you absolutely have to accomplish that day. And then just go with the flow for the rest of the time. Definitely consider going early in the morning taking a nap in the afternoon, going back at night.
Yeah, I definitely had I had a very short list of things I wanted to hit at each park. I wanted to do Haunted Mansion, obviously Pirates of the Caribbean, and I wanted to get Mickey ears. So I did those. And then everything else we did was also fun on top of that. Universal, I wanted to go to do all the Simpsons things. I wanted to do Transformers. I wanted to do Men in Black, but I had a backpack and they're like, you have to put it in a locker. And it was like $15 to do that. So I was like, oh, never mind. Yeah, and then
that was going to be a tip for Universal was that they push for these lockers, and they do actually give you like a window, like maybe an hour or 2 hours for free. But it is a hassle to take everything you have, and you have to use your thumbprint, and some people aren't cool with that. But you know, it's another line you have to wait in. Like the Harry Potter stations to get your lockers are a mess.
Oh my God, they're so cramped.
They're so cramped. It's hot. So that's something that's different about Universal that Disney lets you bring more, I feel like, loose articles with you on the rides, and they have places for you to store them in the vehicle. Universal will not let you do that.
Yeah, that's a great point.
A good pro tip to say, like, pack light. Like, really, obviously I have luxury of being able to go a lot. So like if it doesn't fit in my pocket, I don't bring it with me. But if you were going with kids and stuff, a lot of people I know that have kids, they bring the stroller not for the child, but for all the stuff they don't have to carry.
It makes sense.
And so that's not a me thing, you know, but I see the value if you have 2 or 3 kids, why that would work.
Plus, yeah, it's nice to have that if like they're getting tired and whatnot. Keeps them quiet. And maybe they'll take a nap in it and you can do something for yourself.
Another tip that I had was, especially if it's hot, you can go into restaurants and ask for a cup of water, and they're not going to charge you for that. I mean, that sounds like it should be a no-brainer, but you'll see bottled water is like, what, $4 or $5 there.
$4.
And some people don't realize that they can just ask for a cup and, you know, you'll get some water.
So yeah, I bring a bottle of water for refilling. They have a lot more stations now, like actual refill stations. So they've been integrating that at Disney World, at least.
I will say, yeah, when we were stuck in the line for the Stranger Things haunted house, which is like 90 minutes at the shortest, when you're like halfway through it, they had like kiosks that sold like $5 bottles of water and stuff. I'm like, man, they got you good because you're not going to leave at that point. You're too invested. But fortunately, I still had things to drink from earlier, so I was okay.
They've gotten a little more lax with the things that you can bring. Like they used to not let you bring anything in. Now they'll let you bring like sealed sandwiches. They still check your cooler. It's still a longer wait to get in, but they're getting a more lax with that because it's like even if they made it so you couldn't bring anything in except for maybe a bottle of water, you're waiting in line to get to the food, and eventually you'll give up. So they've made some nice concessions with that to sort of make it more user friendly. But I would say if you're going there and if you want to get food, like everything is usually pretty splittable, you know, and because it's so hot, you really don't want to eat too much anyway.
Yeah, I bring snacks with me. I'm like the opposite. I bring a backpack, and you do have it's annoying waiting in security and stuff, but that way I can have my water bottle and my snacks, so I don't have to waste time getting that during the day. But another tip with the food is buy from the kids menu. You have to be careful if it's like, you know, your typical chicken tenders, don't do that. But sometimes they'll have like a kid's version of their real meals, and they'll be smaller but a lot cheaper. And like you said, you don't want to be eating heavy anyways. So you can save a lot of money from ordering from the kids menu, because at Disney they can't, or at least they've never said anything to me.
And what they're going to do be like, present your child to me.
Yeah. No, they're crying over there around the corner.
Yeah, just grab any kid.
I'm sure they're sick. Yes, I'm sure they're sick of kids.
I just started doing that recently, and
that's a good idea. I nenever would have thought of that.
Yeah.
So I assume it's like half portion, you know, right?
Yeah, I mean, their portions are still huge. You know, like, no, they're charging you $12, but you're kind of getting $12 even if you don't feel like you got $12, because it's $12 for a cheeseburger, you know? And so a lot of people have a hard time justifying that, especially when there are things that are way more accessible. Like McDonald's used to be at Disney and now it's not. Fast food brand name chains used to be sponsored at Disney and now they're not. So it's like mentally, a lot of people feel like they're getting a lower quality item for 3 times as much money. But really, like Andy and I, we split almost every meal we've gotten there. If we get quick service, if you're doing sit down restaurant, that's different. You're there for the experience itself. But if it's just hot and you can't take it and you need to get something to eat, it's super easy for 2 adults to split something.
And another tip I had, it was non-food related, but it's enjoy the little things. Like stop and look around you, because there's so much theming in these parks, especially Disney and Universal. When you're outside of rides, look at the way that they constructed the ride buildings. A lot of times there's a lot of thought and care that went into the way that things that are in the line, little like Easter eggs and hidden Mickeys and things that you can see around, the music, the environment, the atmosphere. It's so tempting, especially if you've never been there before, to not waste a second of your vacation and go from one thing to the next. But just take your time and enjoy the little things, because they're there probably for a reason.
Mm-hmm. And 2, on that note, maybe these things are not so little, but like the shows that they have pop up, like Universal does a really good job where, you know, somebody will just be like tick, 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 and then somebody else picks up something, and then they all kind of do a bandstand, and that's not something you're going to see anywhere else. Disney has been sort of phasing those things out because you can't like move around enough to see it. So they've done away with the Muppet Theater. They used to do it in Magic Kingdom, where I was like the Muppet History of just the American part. And I mean, like, it's a great show, but you would never even think to see that. It's not something that's advertised. When you grab a map, they tell you where it is, but they don't necessarily tell you times. It sort of just pops up. And those are sometimes the best part, when you're walking around and then all of a sudden some magic just happens in front of you.
And like, I know Batuu is filled with a lot of that stuff too from Galaxy's Edge, right? Like there's a lot of little hidden things.
Yeah, there's a lot of Easter eggs, hidden things. I'm definitely big in the immersion. So like they have the Disney Play app, which for all the other sections of the park, there's games to keep you entertained in the queue. So I definitely recommend downloading that, or even if you just get like heads up to play in the queues. But for Batuu, they have where you have a data pad. You actually go around and you're trying to get control of the doors for either the Resistance or the First Order. So it kind of adds another element. And whenever I just want to walk around and take a break, that's what I'll do, is I'll just do that. And they also, in Batuu, some of the cast members will walk up and ask if you want to play Sabacc. So learning how to play Sabacc is important when you go to Galaxy's Edge. So it's really cool when they interact with you, and that's always my favorite part. I mean, yeah, Rise of the Resistance blew me away. I was in tears, but I'll remember the interactions with the cast members and those small things more, I think, as time goes on.
Also, take time out to do the photo challenges that they have. So every park has like their own little thing to do. Magic Kingdom has like the Kingdom Keepers cards kind of thing, just something to distract from everything else instead of waiting in line all the time. But each of those parks has a different photo opportunity that's unique to that park. So when you start to go into Star Wars, they have all the shuttlers and all the ships there. If you time it at a certain time, they'll give you certain animals or certain like unexpected things that show up in your photos as like a gift, like a porg, or like maybe you're at Epcot and Stitch is coming out of the ground, like burrowing out of a tunnel, or Tinkerbell will be going over your picture. And so if you bought the photo maker, or if you already have some kind of season pass, it comes with it, and it's like a little gift that you get, because sometimes the pictures take a couple days or even a couple weeks to come through. So like you don't expect the magic that you see.
I've never gotten the porg, even though I've been there like 3 or 4 times.
You got to time it just right.
I never get the porg.
So she was like, do this.
I know.
So like I knew that it was coming,
yeah.
But when I didn't get the picture, I was really sad. And then like a week later, it just—
the magic ones take longer.
Gave me a notification, and I was like so excited.
Yeah, the photo pass is definitely worth it. And it seems like a lot. I mean, I have a pass, so I'm not sure how much it is. I think it's like $100 or something, but it's totally worth it. The pictures are amazing that they take, and they're very professional. And you already talked about the magic shots, just at a whole nother level.
Yeah, we did one when there was a big hurricane year before last, and they were about to close Disney for a day. We went the day before they were closing, and there was like no one in the park. There was like maybe 1,000 people at Magic Kingdom, like no one there. And so we're like, oh, we never get a picture with the castle. So we stopped and got a picture at the castle. And what they sent me was a picture of us at the castle.
The zoom out?
Well, it was the zoom out, but I also got one that was like a huge cauldron with like Snow White. Sorry, it was escaping me. I was about to say Cinderella. Snow White's apple, you know, and that's like our favorite picture today. We look like hell in it because it's a hurricane, but that's still one of our favorite pictures.
And it gives it character, you know. Say, Harry, weren't you were telling me something about Universal. If you ask them and they're not busy, they can give you like behind the scenes tours.
Right now it used to be the Twister ride and Men in Black, but now I think it's just Men in Black. Oh, and Revenge of the Mummy, the roller coaster too. You can find, they call them team members at Universal. Got to get my terminology right. Team members, and they're usually out in front. And if it's not busy, you can ask them for the behind the scenes tour. Men in Black, it's the immigration tour. And they'll take you around the queue and show you some props and things that are usually they're like extended queues that aren't used unless it's really, really busy. If they're closed down, they'll take you back there and show you some of the behind the scenes. Like for the Mummy ride, they'll show you some behind the scenes of the actual track that was originally used for the King Kong ride. Which was kind of cool. And Men in Black, that line features the room from the movie where the two big aliens are at the console and they're typing. You can walk around in there and take pictures, and it almost fits with the theme of the ride because it makes you look like you're an alien in processing for the Men in Black. So and then at the end of that tour, they'll put you on the first available ride vehicle, and you'll usually get a front row seat with a team member who will point out different behind the scenes things about the ride while you ride, which is kind of cool. Not everybody knows about it. It's not advertised really. But if you can be there on an off day, you can ask for it and get a tour.
Yeah, it's just something to keep an eye out for. They didn't do that. I asked them about that at Men in Black, and they're like, they weren't doing it. It was also like right before Halloween Horror Nights was about to start, so I imagine they probably weren't.
Yeah, big event days is probably tough to.
Yeah, it's probably not a good time to do it. Do it in like March. But yeah, so those are the tips that I kind of learned, and I think it's worth kind of having a bit of a game plan. Like I said, have like a couple of big things you want to do, but then, you know, leave yourself a chance in the day to do other things as well. In like window shop and stuff, you don't have to buy everything, but like some of the shops are really cool. Like their own little experience. Like what's the one by Haunted Mansion? It's like Haunted Curios.
Memento Mori.
Yeah, that's what it is. I knew it was alliterative, but I couldn't remember what it was.
I flew to Disney just to go to that store on opening day.
That's awesome. Did you get your picture? They have the
I did. I have it right here. You want to see it? I don't know if it'll pick up on the camera. Okay, give me a second.
It's one of the exclusive souvenirs from that store is that you can get yourself as a picture, and then if you move it, you'll see
like you
in a
look
minute.
around.
Yeah, you'll see in a minute what happens. I don't want to ruin it, but
we'll make this exclusive. We'll make this exclusive to the YouTube version. I'll cut this out of the audio because it's not very good audio podcast.
Well, you know, I'll say one other thing about planning ahead. One of the unfortunate things you have to kind of do with Disney, especially if you're going during peak day, is you have to plan out your fast passes, and usually they tell you to do that like 3 months ahead of time.
All that's changing because of COVID, so definitely research it. Whatever we say might be outdated. Right. They keep updating it, but keep going.
Because the single rider, I was going to talk about single rider lines too, and I think that's all going away now. Because, you know, they used to have a separate line for people that are just by themselves, and you get on the ride faster because it helps fill odd number rows and things. They called it the single rider line.
Yeah, that's what I use for Smuggler's Run. I'll go on it over and over, 15-minute wait for single rider. I'm always an engineer, which is like the worst role you can have.
See, that's why I'm afraid to do the Falcon one, because I don't want to get stuck with a bunch of randos.
Or people who don't understand what's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. We were just talking about single rider lines. They may be going by the wayside now with the virus, but
yeah,
I'm sure they are. Okay, so this, when I got it, I put it on YouTube. I was the first person to put it on YouTube, and nobody cared.
I think it's so cool. I like the souvenir.
And so when I was waiting in line, I went just for this, and then when I was there, they were telling me that it's probably not going to be today because it's rainy, blah blah blah, come back tomorrow. And we were there for like 5 days. So at that time, I think we were staying at All Star Sports. So I made it all the way back to All Star Sports. The second that I get to All Star Sports, I get a notification on my phone that says they're open. I run right back to the bus. And I get there. And when I get there, he tells, oh, we were only taking 100 people. We've already had 100 people. So I tell him, I flew here from New Jersey. I flew 865 miles to be here. And you're going to be pulling my lifeless body off the pavement if you do not let me in this house.
It would fit the theme, but it wouldn't be very Disney.
So they let me in. And then they gave me this. And I'm not sure if this is going to really pick up, but.
Oh, no, you can see it.
Yeah, you can see it.
Oh, that's really awesome. Cool, actually.
And it's like my prized possession. Yeah. And you can see it was raining. My hair's all wet. It only adds to the theme. But yeah. They also gave me the cool, this is when they started like the tarot card reading stuff. Yeah. And so this isn't on brand anymore necessarily, but this was my favorite branding that they did. Now they're on, I used to think it was just like chibi characters, but it's actually Disney Emoji Blitz.
Oh.
So that's their current branding. Less fun.
Yeah, it's way less fun. But yeah, so
there's unique souvenir experiences like that at different places, depending on where you go in the parks. You can't get that picture done, let's say at the Disney gift shop in the front of the park. It has to be at that store.
And now they have death certificates, which they've done away with, as you can imagine, because it's not very friendly right now.
Yeah, so. I guess. I mean, people die every. All right, that's a more disordered conversation.
Oh man.
But yeah, so I guess with that, I would say episode complete. We're going a little bit long, as we do every episode. But thank you guys so much for joining us. Theme parks, like I said, I don't experience a lot of them. I want to do more. I've always found them fascinating. I watch a lot of like theme park history channels on YouTube. So Yesterworld and Defunctland are two that I really like, and I recommend them. It's just fascinating to watch all the different versions of like, even just like the Haunted Mansion, just how it changes and like some of the original ideas and things. But you guys have any kind of online presence you would like to plug? Anywhere we find you on Twitter or Instagram or Twitch?
You can find me on Twitch, AC Pinball. I love playing pinball, so find me there.
Yeah. Okay. Obviously, you can find us everywhere. We're just Level Up Entertainment. I'm specifically Level Up Scott, LVLUP SCOTT, on Instagram and Twitter and like all of the things. I don't post as often. I post on our YouTube page and SoundCloud and all of these other places a lot more now that I'm doing a weekly podcast. But with that, we'll wrap this one up. If you have a topic you'd like to see us tackle in a future episode, please leave a comment or contact us at contact@levelupentertainment.com. This is where I usually say what the next episode's topic is going to be, but I'm not sure what it's going to be next time. We have a couple of ones in the works. We just haven't been able to nail down recording days, partially because I'm juggling a couple of people's schedules. But another one, as of recording this, the store will be opening back up full time for the public in a couple of days. As you listen to this episode, it will have been open that week. So I'm going to be a lot busier. So I may not have as much time to work on this now. Plus a couple of our other employees, the idea for the show was we would rotate hosts. So I think I know Greg wants to do one. So he might be the next one. So we'll see. But yeah, so we might take a week or two off of the weekly posting, which is fine. It's our podcast. We can do whatever we want. But yeah, so we may take a week off because the store's about to open in a few days and we're about to get much busier. And especially Greg, because he's about to welcome his first child into the world. I believe in 2 weeks is the due date from this recording. But for all I know, by the time you hear this, she may have been born. So we wish him and his wife, Mo, all the best luck in the world. And until then, be safe out there.